These are areas that people, of course, are not allowed to go into unless it's under very special circumstances. What you're looking at is the top of the original pour from the foundation.
This is showing a part of the monument that most people don't get to see.
We're actually standing on the foundation of the monument.
Built above ground, but then the terraces kind of grounded it in.
This monument represents all of the history of this part of the world and the culmination of what was won here at San Jacinto and the sacrifices that were made to ensure that. The centennial was during 1936, 100 years after the battle was fought. And that was when this memorial became a concept and a reality. It started in that centennial year. Jesse Jones decided to build a world-class memorial that would honor all those who fought for the independence of Texas, not just those who fought at the Battle of San Jacinto, but those who fought and risked their lives during the Texas Revolution. Jesse Jones was a Houston businessman and entrepreneur and philanthropist.
Took advantage of the multitude of opportunities for someone who had ambition and vision.
One of the most powerful men in the country at that time, and next to the president, I can't think of anyone who would have been able to make this project possible.
Was put in charge of the Reconstruction Finance Corporation, which was giving money after the Depression, the New Deal era, to put people back to work. And this monument was one of those projects that was designed to put people back to work.
In 1936, FDR was to attend the Centennial Exposition in Dallas, but he stopped here in Houston, left his train, came down Buffalo Bayou by boat, and then came out to the battlefield, to the spot where the monument was to be built. Jesse Jones was instrumental in the federal government at the time. He procured $400,000 from the $3 million that the Congress set aside for the Texas Centennial.
He, I think, saw it as both a commemorative effort and also one that was going to bring prominence to Houston.
Houston was an up-and-coming city. This is where Mr. Jones lived. This is where his businesses were. I think he wanted to draw attention to Texas and the sacrifices that had been made to win Texas independence.
This was a concept design for the monument, one that was not actually built. Originally, an idea was to have two different wings, one to have space to hold meetings in, the other to be an auditorium, and then we've got a nice potential figure on top.
His idea was to take his two favorite memorials, the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial, and set one on top of the other with the Lone Star of Texas atop representing Texas.
This is an actual print of the monument itself, kind of an overview of what it was going to look like. Architect was Alfred C. Finn. When it was drawn, they had not yet decided what the text was going to be on the main part of the building, because it's just kind of mock words there. And they also don't have the drawing for the frieze that is there now. They just have some kind of vague figures showing there too.
Construction techniques did not exist to build a building such as this. And so they had to be created and invented as they completed the structure.
This is actually the surveyor's chain that was used to survey the land in and around the San Jacinto battleground.
The footprint of this monument was designed specifically to hold the weight of the column of the monument.
The firm that built it was the W.S. Bellows Construction Company. They are still in business in Houston.
The foundation pour for this building especially was important and difficult. Before they poured the foundation of the monument, they put a 3-inch cap of cement over the red clay soil to keep it from drying out, to keep the moisture within it, and to have a level surface to put down the iron rebars that was going to form the foundation of the monument. The foundation of this building is called a spread footing, and it was a 57-hour continuous pour of concrete, which was the single longest pour ever to be recorded at that day. If you look carefully, you can see footprints in the cement, which are kind of footprints of history of those who worked on this construction. They left their permanent mark here as well. 100 cubic yards of concrete were used in the pour every hour for 57 continuous hours. If it were to cure unevenly, if the foundation were to be cracked at any spot, they would have had to break up the foundation, pull it out of the foundation pit, and start over again. And that would have bankrupted the firm that was charged with the construction of the building of this monument, the W.S. Bellows Construction Company. You can see here on this concrete wall the impression of the boards that were used for forms when the concrete was being poured. Everything went without a hitch. The engineer, contractor, and everyone was well relieved when it was poured and finished. You can see in places nails that were pulled from the wooden forms that were used to pour the concrete, and you have a little bit of history preserved here forever, representing those who completed this monumental construction project. Even today in Houston, tall buildings still use this foundation pour technique. At the bottom, we actually see here some of the wood that was used in 1937 and 1938 to support this pour. The foundation is 15 feet thick at its center, tapering to a 5-foot thickness. The reason for this is that the 15-foot section was to bear the weight of the column of the monument. This monument weighs 70,300,000 pounds, but this foundation could have borne the weight of 146 million pounds. Stones used at the base of the monument weighed 8,000 pounds that went up the first 65 feet of the column, and the stones after that were approximately 2 feet tall and weighed about 500 pounds each.
They did build it by having a platform and that they kept raising up the tower as they built it, and they used that to set the stone.
They used 5 70-ton cranks to raise the scaffolding 6 feet every day as they completed the column of the monument.
In order to communicate with the people down at the bottom, they had this telephone system that went down from the top to the bottom. There would have been a phone line running down the center of the shaft, hooked up to this man so that he could listen to what was going on. This was a Works Progress Administration project. It was funded in part by the federal government, in part by the state.
Workers had to come from within a 20-mile radius of this site since it was a WPA project.
Many of the people who worked on the construction had no prior construction experience.
Of the 150 permanent on-site workers, only 35 had even been at a construction project before. Through the use of safety precautions and a safety education program, and I think with a great deal of luck, not a single person was killed or seriously injured during the construction of this building, which was very unusual for such a high and dangerous character. The Lone Star of Texas is represented by the star on top of the monument. It's 34 feet tall and weighs 220 tons and was built in place at the top of the monument. It took 20 working days to complete that star.
Another interesting one, this is the details of the star.
They thought about a two-dimensional star, but no one was really happy with that. And so what they did was build a 1-inch scale model. And from that design, after several tries, they were able to build a full-scale model on the ground.
To make sure that all the angles would fit together before they went to the effort of raising the stone to the top.
Only at that time were they actually able to draw a set of designs that could be used to build that star.
They wanted to be sure that when they got it up there and they put it together, it would fit together well.
It's a beautiful, unique symbol that can be seen as a three-dimensional star within a 360-degree viewing.
They were able to put in an area for a light, so of course it would be lit at night. And it was really a great place also to do maintenance and putting in later on antennas and other things. So it's really a service area that not many people are able to go up into and take a look at. We are at the base of the elevator shaft in the monument.
It was built to have an elevator in it. It really was only a freight elevator when the building opened. It wasn't initially designed to take people, but then it was used for people from the beginning when it opened. The cost for an adult to ride to the top was 25 cents, and for a child was 10 cents. At that time, if you wanted to, you could walk the stairs to the top.
In the early days in the museum, even museum employees would have to pay in order to use the elevator. So a lot of the museum employees are in very good shape because we still, to this day, use the stairs.
Jesse Jones, in 1952, he came out to visit the monument. He came many times. He rode the elevator to the top then, and at that time it took more than 3 minutes to get to the top. And he was very impatient with that and decided something else needed to be done.
Mr. Jones recognized the need to really take out the original elevator, which is much more of a service type of elevator, and put in the lovely Otis elevator that you see there today.
In this picture, he's giving a check for a new elevator to Louis Kemp, who was on the Board of Trustees of the museum. When it went in, it took a little over 30 seconds to go to the top, and that's still how long it takes to go to the top.
This is one of the original hooks that was used to hold up the stone.
Once the stone was in place, they would put pins in and then lay concrete behind it to kind of be a backing to it and hold it together.
Some of the stones have had to be replaced for various reasons. Some of them have eroded, or they have flaws within them that have become more apparent over time.
The stone itself is a 100-million-year-old native Texas stone. That part of Texas used to be under what was called the Permian Sea. And the fossils that you see in the stone were the remains of sea animals' shells that were fossilized over the centuries. It's a beautiful, unique stone. It's not necessarily the perfect building stone, but it's native to Texas, and it's actually a very interesting stone to face the monument.
It does give 549 feet from the base right where the doorway is up to the top of the star.
There was an implicit understanding that this memorial would not be taller than the Washington Monument. And so we sent assurances back to Washington, D.C., measuring from the front lobby to the top of the star, that it would be a little bit shorter, about 6 foot to 9 feet shorter than the Washington Monument.
Now that's not, of course, taking into account the 2 terraces that they built to put the monument on top of.
But the person who was charged with adhering to this restriction might have been lax in his duties, and Texans have been known to do that. We've done that in the past. We'll probably do that in the future. It's one of the things that I think people expect from Texans. The San Jacinto Monument is actually 567 feet and inches to spare tall. making it taller than the 555-foot Washington Monument. The San Jacinto Monument is one of the unique structures in the world.
In many ways, one of the last great work project administration projects of the Great Depression, and one of the ones that's most notable in Texas.
To me, the monument represents all the aspirations and sacrifices that were made to win the liberties we enjoy today and the independence of Texas, and so it is sacred, hollow ground.